Tough.
Hello, everybody. It's us again.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Seems like we're almost doing every day of the week.
Yeah.
So anyway, want to wait for a few people to come in. Oh, look, there we go. Nicola's in straight away. Look at that. Hello,
hey,
Nicola.
4 viewers so far. Yeah, so tonight we have decided that we're definitely not going to run over on time for 3 hours, guys. So just letting you know.
We are going to start limiting our feeds because we do tend to have a bad habit of overrunning and getting ourselves into trouble with our halves.
Yes, exactly.
So we are going to limit it tonight. So about 10:30, we will be coming off air. Just say hi to Fran. Hello, Fran.
Hey, Fran. Good to see you. And hello, Nicola, as well. Sorry, I didn't say hello earlier.
And
hi, Nikki. Thank you for joining us.
Anyway, tonight we are going to be talking about cryptozoology. Obviously, the paranormal field is not just all about ghosts. We have UFOs and cryptozoology, or cryptids, as they're otherwise known. And what is cryptozoology? Well, cryptozoology is technically a pseudoscience, meaning that scientists see that it consists of statements, beliefs, or practices that claim to be both scientific and factual, but are incompatible with scientific method. And it aims to prove the existence of entities from folklore record, such as Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra, and many more. I actually had to practice that word, Chupacabra.
Chupacabra.
Chupacabra. It sounds like a chubba chup, doesn't it? Type of lolly.
Yeah.
So cryptozoologists refer to these creatures as cryptids, a term coined by the subculture because it does not follow the scientific method. So you have pseudoscience, which is the scientific explanation behind these strange creatures that are seen. And then you have the subculture, which goes by all the other forms like mythology and so on and so forth. And the term cryptozoology and cryptids roughly dates back to about 1959, when a Belgian and Scottish zoologist, Bernard Havermans and Ivan T. Sanderson, both wrote works on strange creatures from around the world, including the abominable snowman, etc. And it's suggested that the term cryptid means an animal whose existence or survival to the present day is disputed or unsubstantiated, or any animal of interest to a cryptozoologist. So basically, to put it into layman's terms, it's any weird creature.
Yeah, just anything that we can't explain, it's kind of like put into cryptozoology.
It's basically any animal that we do not normally see every day. The Loch Ness, rumoured to be a dinosaur trapped in time by the loch. Many have believed that they've seen it, and many have tried but failed to locate Nessie. Popular belief now being circulated is that Nessie is able to move between lochs through a network of underwater tunnels. And it attracts a lot of cryptozoologists and tourists alike from all over the world. And they're all excited to the possibility of getting a glimpse of it. So that actually creates a good tourist.
It creates the right height, doesn't it?
And when you look back at the pictures, you know, they've never been. Some of them have sort of like been proved not to be fake, but some of them are very sort of obvious that they're not actually of an animal or a creature. They've just been set up on purpose just to create that image. And then you run into the realms of, are these people doing this to sort of boost tourism? There's been a lack of people coming to this area over the last year or so. Let's get a picture of Nessie in the loch and try and get some more people back. And as soon as that picture gets circulated, regardless of whether it's proved to be fake or not, tourism starts to increase again. You've had people go out on boats with sonar radars deliberately to try and see if they can track where Nessie is. And a few people have been sort of reasonably successful with locating a large object that seems to be moving in the loch. But that's as far as they've got. They've not got any further. So the popular belief there with Nessie is that it is a dinosaur of some sort.
Yeah, it would make sense if it was something like whereby it can, it can go down maybe so low into the actual water itself that it's just kind of stayed down there for that amount of time. It would probably make a lot more sense, wouldn't it, for it to be...
The problem is dinosaurs being lizards.
Jurassic.
Yeah. They've got to be... because they're lizards, they lay eggs.
Yeah.
But they also have to be able they've got to reproduce. So if they've got to reproduce, there's got to be more than one. And do we seriously think that dinosaur is going to be able to outlive the extinction event and still be alive today on its own? I don't think dinosaurs ever could have lived for that long.
No.
So
no, I think that, like, they say that, descendants of dinosaurs such as like, turtles and stuff like that. They say that they can go to sort of 80 to 100 years, usually, and that's about it. So
exactly. We're talking millions of years, or hundreds of thousands of years.
We've got a very big under the sea lizard that has lived for like God knows how many millennia.
The thing is the rumor is that it's a plesiosaurus, or the more likelihood will be it's a Spinosaurus, because that is the only dinosaur that we know today that actually spent all their time living in water. So, either way, they are lizards. Whether they live in water or live on land, they're lizards. They lay eggs, but the eggs have to be fertilized, which means there had to have been a male and a female, unless this dinosaur, oddly enough, was both male and female and can lay its own eggs. Or for some bizarre unknown reason, it was able to live for hundreds of thousands of years without being disturbed, with a readily supply of food. And it's been able to live on its own all that time.
Because Fran has said you have to have a viable breeding population and certainly a food source. Yes. So it would make a lot of sense that it's not possible that whatever it was being underwater for God knows how many years. There has to be, like Wayne said, there either has to be more of them that we just don't see, or like you said, they fertilize their own eggs, kind of like, like when worms, you cut them in half, they sort of grow their other half back. It's very similar.
There are species of animals that are both sexes and they lay their own egg. They lay and fertilize their own eggs. So
that's the only other possible explanation for that. But then there's the food
we don't see lizards doing that, though. That's the thing. If we look at all the lizards that we have currently, there aren't no lizards that fertilize their own eggs.
Exactly.
So If it was a plesiosaur or a spinosaurus, the chances are they were egg layers that needed to be fertilized. So there has to be more than one of them. But where are they?
Yeah, exactly. Where have they gone? Like, are they underground? Like, who knows?
This is why there is the rumor of the network of underwater tunnels that could lead to. I know this sounds a bit far fetched, but they're theories. If there is an underwater area where they would spend most of their time, where they don't need to come into the loch to swim about, they might only need to come at the loch to go and get some food, and then they would go back into the subterranean areas where they are out the way. And it's like with human beings, if you don't want to be seen, you don't want to converse with anybody, what do?
You just stay indoors.
You stay indoors. You don't go out, so you don't meet anybody.
Sounds like my life.
Nobody gets to see you. So the chances are Nessie may be a little bit more intelligent than we believe them to be. And she's gone, you know what? I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be captured. So I'll just go out, get me dinner, and then I'll spend the next 40 days sitting inside. Who's to say that they haven't twigged and thought, right, I'll go out at night only because then no one can see me.
Yeah. You never know.
Until the likes of Loch Ness is mapped fully, they know there are underwater caves down there. So it's a case of mapping it fully and seeing where these cave entrances are and where they go to. And at the moment, there is no way anybody's going to want to do that.
I could just see this image of like this massive lizard creature just wrapped itself up like inside one of these long tunnels, is just sitting in the middle like, you'll never find me here.
You've been reading
like, I can just imagine it. Just like, oh,
curled up around a pile of gold.
Yeah, probably. God, could you imagine when we find out it's actually a bloody dragon? That'd be great.
But again, technically, dragons technically would come under cryptozoology because some people still believe that they do exist, and the fact that they think they did exist.
Dragons for me is one that I could fully believe in. I could fully believe in dragons, from more so for me because of the dinosaur era. Yeah,
I mean, I think dragons
maybe not breathing fire, possibly, but
I don't think it would be dragons as we're led to believe they are in books and TV. Exactly. I mean, you look at the Komodo dragon; it's classed as a dragon.
Yeah,
but only by name.
Yeah, we don't know why it's called dragon, but it's got dragon in its name. Yeah. But yeah, certainly I believe that dragons, it's possible that they did exist at one point, but like you said, not the sort of dragons that we would classify them as from mythology. From a scientific point of view, it would make sense biologically with the dinosaurs, because, you know, some of them did have wings, like you had the ones that would fly. And I don't know, for me, it just makes sense that it's possible that there was maybe one or two that kind of could relate back to what people now classify as a dragon. But it wouldn't really be the types of dragons that we hear and see in like Game of Thrones, like Fran has just said. Yeah, no Game of Thrones dragons, just literally like maybe a lizard-like creature that had wings. Like pterodactyl style.
If we look at it's we know for a fact that things like crocodiles and alligators managed to survive the extinction period.
Yeah.
This mass extinction that happened, they escaped that. Now, who's to say that the likes of Nessie and the likes of dragons won't actually manage to escape that mass extinction? We know they did, because crocodiles and alligators have. So who's to say the likes of Nessie managed to escape it, i.e. the subterranean world that they've got going through these tunnels? And dragons were also the same. somehow they managed to escape the extinction event and were able to multiply for a short period of time before they were hunted down. But obviously, because of the extinction event, they evolved to not be what they were at some point, and so they altered slightly, and they lost their oomph as such. So the extinction event wasn't 100% pure extinction because something still survived. But so I would go along the lines that Nessie managed to escape all of that, or Nessie's kind managed to escape all that. But the door's still open on Nessie, pretty much the same as everything else that falls into cryptozoology. You've also got Bigfoot.
Yeah, Bigfoot.
What I'm doing is I'm running through the list of probably the most popular cryptids that are out there in cryptozoology world. There are so many weird creatures out there. So with Bigfoot, it's a man-like creature between 6 to 9 foot tall. And it's a man-like creature of North America and Canada. Some are also saying that, like humans, the abominable snowman is a kind of breed of Bigfoot, which we would say are similar to Africans and Europeans having a similar shape, but slightly different in appearance.
Yeah.
So that would be like quite possibly caused by the habitat in which they're living in. So again, with Nessie, whereas with Bigfoot has been seen to attract many cryptozoologists and tourists, all hoping for a glimpse of the elusive creature. Photographic evidence only spreads the stories of its existence, but no one yet has arrived with definitive proof that it exists. So,
exactly, yeah.
You know, there are more credible images of Bigfoot than there are of Nessie. And also, obviously, there's video footage, witness statements about Bigfoot. People have taken foot molds, and oddly enough, there'd only be 6 or 7 footprints to take a mold of. So what was it that Bigfoot took a run and jump and then never landed again?
Just like, where did it go? Like,
this foot is like a size. This foot is like a size 30. We better take a print of this because that ain't right. And they'll take a print of it and they'll go, well, where's all the others? That's one big stride, Evening, Greta. So you'll have to excuse me. I've got a bit of burpage. So with Bigfoot, Bigfoot has been seen all over the world, but each culture gives it a different name. Like I say, with abominable snowman, he's mainly in the mountainous areas. So places like the Himalayas, which was the popular place for the abominable snowman. So the likes of the Nepalese and the Chinese, they will go with the abominable snowman, whereas in America and Canada, it's Bigfoot. There are more and more videos surfacing now of alleged Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah.
But they aren't, in my eyes, they're not credible enough. And when I mean credible enough is that the video footage is from a certain distance, so you can't make out any definitive markings, features of whatever it is they're looking at. You just see this black mass dart between trees or bushes, and that's it. And they go, "Oh my god, what was that? What was that? We're the only ones here." And a lot of them sort of seem to be sort of, I don't know, too obviously faked or staged or scripted. You're out hunting. I'm sorry, but if I was out hunting, I'd have my rifle with me to actually hunt the deer, not standing there with my mobile phone taking video footage. Now, if I'd have heard something rustling in the bushes, my first thought would be, I'm here hunting deer. It might be a deer, so the first thing I'm going to do is take aim with my rifle.
Yeah.
the last thing I'm going to be doing if I'm hunting deer is taking my mobile phone and going, "Oh look, there's Bigfoot." So
that is exactly what they sound like, by the way, guys. I love Fran, but who wants to get too close? Hey, Tony.
Well, and this is the thing, because we don't know what Bigfoot is. We know it's a humanoid figure, but its proportions compared to humankind, it's something you don't want to argue with. So that's why when the first sightings were first reported, was that it's possible that it was a bear.
Yeah, because it kind of looks very gorilla-like as well, doesn't it? So
cross between a bear and a gorilla, and people were saying, you're in North America, there's a lot of bears in the forests, so it's quite possible you've seen a bear. Then people started saying, well, could it be an escaped gorilla from the zoo or from a circus? Yeah. And they were like, well, not really, because it's too humanoid-like.
Yeah.
A lot of the video footage,
it walks on two legs as well a lot of the time in some of some
well, the most famous film footage they captured was of the full-blown image of it walking through the forest, and you can actually see it swinging its arms, but the arms were slightly longer than that of a normal human, and that was what sort of concerned people, was the fact that it estimated about 9 foot high, and its arms were almost down to its knees as such while it was standing there. And that's why it scared them. I don't think I would want to be anybody that would deliberately try and go out and hunt Bigfoot, because what are you going to do to trap it? You'd have to put bear traps down and all sorts just to sort of think about, how you're going to catch a hold of it. And the thing is like Greta says, it's a Yeti. Well, Yeti, abominable snowman, Bigfoot, I think, and a lot of scientists think, that all of those three are all part of the same species. They're just different breeds. So like I said, the abominable snowman is the Himalayas and Asia, the mountainous regions of Asia, because it has its environment around it, and so it evolves with that environment. You've got Bigfoot and Yeti or Sasquatch are different breeds in different areas of the Americas. So although they're the same species, they'd be different breeds. Just like I said, with us humans, each continent, the type of people that live on that continent have evolved to be able to suitably live on that continent. So likes of Africa, the skin is brown, and the further north you go or the further south you go, the paler the skin becomes. And so it's an environmental issue which will dictate on their appearance. Definitely, Tony. We know so little about our oceans because it is too expensive. It's just like the space race. It's too expensive to do anything. Okay, yeah, maybe they live in caves and it's just another evolution. Exactly. I just can't imagine that nobody has killed one. Well, the thing is, Fran, is that with Bigfoot and Yetis, they're reclusive animals. They don't want to be discovered. And like we said earlier, if you don't want to be seen and you don't want to talk to anybody, the first thing you do is don't go out. And they will do the minimalist possible so that they don't get discovered and don't get caught. And that is another reason why there are a lot of animals that stay in during the day and go out at night time, because there's less people out there, there's less predators out there.
Yeah.
And so it's safer for them to go out at night than it is during the day.
It's easier for them because all of their predators are asleep. So
yeah, and there has been a lot of videos coming out of Canada and North America of strange sounds coming from the hills. I mean, we've all already heard of the Horns of Jericho, which are the strange trumpet sounds coming from the skies.
The weird sort of like alien sound that sometimes comes light.
There was a lot of videos coming out from North America and Canada of these strange barking noises, growling noises, screaming noises that weren't human.
Yeah, I remember that.
And there was a lot of them, and it scared the living daylights out of a lot of people. And there was a group of people that actually went out to try and follow where these sounds were coming from. And I remember seeing a documentary about a group of people. They were sort of living in the Arctic Circle, and they were they'd been out by this group of trees on the edge of this forest, and they'd heard these noises. And only 2 of them out of the 4, I think it was, never came back. And they sent a search team out and found 2 bodies had been ripped to pieces. But it was because they went out to try and see what this sound was. And the other 2 couldn't even describe what it was that attacked them. They claim they never actually saw it. They heard it. They saw trees starting to buckle and be pushed over, and this growling and howling and all sorts was going on. And they all decided to run, but typical tactic, took from the rear.
Yeah.
It didn't try to go around the side and block them off to get them all. It just took them one at a time from the back.
Yeah.
Whoever was the slowest was the first person to go, basically. And that then started another search. But when they went to search, they couldn't find anything. So the fingers got pointed at the 2 survivors. So the poor 2 survivors, they're the ones, you know, they're the 2 that sort of got had up, to be honest. We got hi everyone from Facebook user.
Hello, Facebook user. Yeah, apologies. We don't know who you are. Sorry.
That'll be Reg or Lou again, I reckon, or Stuart.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, no, yeah, I mean, Greta's right. I mean, it seems to be the Northern Hemisphere that seems to get the Horns of Jericho more than anywhere else. And they haven't got a clue where they're coming from. A lot of people say that's steel buckling on bridges. And things like that, or a factory nearby that's manufacturing steel girders or something like that.
Videos of this. That's definitely not any of those things. Like, it's coming from the whole sky, guys, or all around you at all points. How on earth can that be still buckling on a building? I
just personally think it is someone with a very large speaker and a really wicked guitar.
Yeah, going through the sky.
They're like, right, let's get these people. And they've put the speaker, set it into a position, they've plugged it in, turned the power on, they've just gone,
yeah.
And everybody's all gone.
Over and over again. Didn't they say something about... Didn't they say something about that weather-altering thing?
The weather-altering thing? The weather-altering thing, we got... There's a lot of weirdness going on in regards to weather altering, because since man has been able to fly, man has been altering the weather. We've been doing cloud seeding, where we put nitrates into the clouds to freeze the clouds into condensing the water molecules so it rains. That's usually used mostly in dry, arid areas or drought-ridden areas. But NASA have been doing something rather crafty. And this is why a lot of people have got a misconception of chemtrails, where they believe that the Americans and the governments of the world are putting chemicals in aircraft and flying them around the world and spraying these chemicals into the air without us knowing. Not actually realizing that a byproduct of the fuels that they're burning does create a trail, especially at high altitude.
Yeah.
And what NASA have been doing is they have been using an oxygen emitter when they test their engines. And when they test their engines, it actually gives off clouds. It actually makes clouds, and those clouds then drift off and they drop rain wherever they land. The clouds will condense back up again, form as rain, and they've been using this engine quite a lot now in agriculture, and it is massive. And they've been testing it quite a lot over the last couple of months because they want to see whether the new engine is going to be compatible with any of the SpaceX rockets that are going to be used.
We'll see. We'll see. Can you imagine if it doesn't go well? That won't go down well.
And it's like HARP as well. I think that's the one that Greta's talking about, is the HARP. Where it was a set system of weather altering things that are placed all over the world to try and alter the weather.
Oh my God.
Okay, Fran. See you soon.
We'll see you soon, Fran.
Evening, Joe.
We'll catch you on next week, hopefully. I can't explain that noise, but I didn't find it pleasant, and yes, that's it.
Yeah, the problem is that some people have said that it could be a sound weapon. The Germans during the First World War started experimenting with sound weapons, and a lot of governments of the world still at the moment are using sound as a form of riot control. And we've also recently started experimenting with it, and it's called brown noise.
Brown noise, yeah.
And it's where the tone is that low that it affects persons' insides. And the reason why it stops a rioter is because you don't want to riot if you've just messed your pants. Because in effect, that's what the brown noise does. It makes you poop your pants. And if I was a writer, that's the last thing I'd want to do, is go off out, go, I'm going home, see you later.
No, you wouldn't want to riot after, basically.
You're not going to go, all right, I'll just shit myself, never mind.
Yeah, no, not at all.
But then saying that, what policeman would want to arrest you if you've pooped yourself?
Yeah, exactly. It kind of works on both sides, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we've just digressed. We've gone into science now. How have we done that? Strange.
Yeah. It happens a lot.
Oh, well, it did on me last night on the Dark Mirror radio show. We were talking about I can't remember what it was now. We had one subject set aside, and then all of a sudden we started talking about the CIA releasing 13 million declassified documents on UFOs. And that was supposed to happen today, yet I'm still to hear about it. So it was quite a weird one. Did anyone notice after about 4 weeks of the first lockdown, I had distinctive clarity in the air and everything was very clear? No, I didn't get new glasses from Specsavers. No. Oh, I mean, yeah, the levels of pollution during lockdown. That was brilliant. That was.
Yeah, I found as well for around here, because we're based on a nature reserve here, and I found that when everybody was indoors more, I was also noticing as well that there was a load of animals that had just kind of like I had not seen in ages, where I would usually see them quite a lot, like foxes, swans, geese, and they just decided they weren't. I just was not seeing them around here for quite a number of months throughout the first lockdown. And then over like sort of the last sort of, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, I've been seeing just more and more like flocks of geese and ducks and foxes quite often, and badgers and stuff like that. And I'm like,
but that's because of lockdown.
Yeah, because I think honestly it's because a lot of the time there's a lot more of them as well, probably because there's less people going out, there's less people killing them on roads, there's less people killing them for hunting, I mean, I don't think there's very many people that do that these days over here, but
although in the wild they have a readily supplyable source of food.
Yeah.
But part of that is contributed by people that go out there with picnics and put their rubbish in the bins or throw their bit stuff away and things like that. Without a lot of people heading off out there, the environment itself is able to improve. So the supply of food really shouldn't have been altered that much. In fact, it should have been better because of the other wildlife that is there. But that takes time. And so the likes of more foxes coming into towns and things like that, they're having to sort of come closer because that readily supply of food has moved inland. You know, it's moved away from the fields and the forests and the woods, and it's gone back to their own homes. So that's why we had a sudden splurge of urban foxes. And we had 2 in our garden the other day trying to get our rabbits. They soon did a runner when I got my torch out and shone it through the window. They thought it was morning. And they soon run off. They're like, whoa, who turned the lights on?
Well, I can't see bloody anything now. Can't see. I don't know where the bunnies are. They could be anywhere.
It was a case. It was a case of it was too bright for them to see where the rabbit hutch was, so they gave up pretty quickly.
They just run through it. Like, oh, there it is.
So, but also there is also going to be a lapse where a whole year has gone by where there is going to be no sightings because not that many people went to these locations to see if these things were there.
Yeah. There's going to be a hell of a lot of missed opportunities, aren't there?
Well, I mean, the likes of Bigfoot and Sasquatch, they're probably been running around the woods going, woo, you can't catch me because you're not allowed to go out. You know?
Can you imagine? They're just all like peering at us from across the road like, ha, 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 I told you this day would come.
There'd have been someone on the outskirts of that lived on the outskirts of a forest has gone, I wonder, see what I can do, and take a drone out and fly it above the forest, and in the distance they see these lights and banners and they can hear music, and there's like 10 dozen yetis dancing about around a food bar or something. And then one of them comes in and says, did you hear on the news they're easing the lockdown, we better go back to the caves.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, well, the 12th is coming, guys. We better head off. Stop the rave. Stop the Yeti raves.
But I'm going to go on now from Bigfoot to something which is sort of fairly recent. And is quite a worry when you first hear the reports of a chupacabra.
I don't think I've heard of this. I probably know what they are, but I don't know what they're called.
It sounds like a lollipop, but it's not. Honest.
No.
And it is quite a modern legend. It's probably one of the newest legends or the newest tales to become a legend in the world. And it's originated in the Americas. The only issue there is that it's also been seen in places like Russia, and the Philippines, and Asia too, India. So technically in places all over the world, but the first ever report was in 1995 in Puerto Rico. And it was alleged where a strange animal wandered into a farm on all fours and attacked this man's goats, and hence why it got called the name chupacabra, because in English it means goat sucker.
My face.
So the chupacabra itself is alleged to be an animal vampire.
An animal vampire.
An animal vampire. In which, obviously, because of the first incident, it attacked this farmer's goats and it drained the blood from its victims. So it didn't actually want flesh, it just wanted the blood. And the animals that fell victim to the chupacabra hadn't got a single drop of blood left in their bodies.
Ah, okay.
Which,
Cool.
sort of in some situations, is very similar to things like the alien abductions of cattle on some farms, like at Skinwalker Ranch. Cattle had been mutilated with surgical precision.
Yeah, you're just like, what? How?
And in the case
why?
of Skinwalker Ranch, I believe the last incident they had where there was cattle mutilation, there was 3 cows that had been affected, and they said that the actual mutilation itself was done with that much precision. Even a top surgeon would have not been able to have made a clean cut like that. So it was above our own surgical standards. And again, all 3 of those animals were completely drained of blood. So is it a chupacabra, the animal vampire, or is it what a lot of people think is something to do with an alien race? So,
yeah.
But then the issue is,
I don't know.
Although it's only like 26 years old, this now legend, it still lacks a lot of evidence.
Yeah, like literally the only evidence I've seen of this so far is when I was watching a TV show recently, like, and they had this exact creature in their TV show, and I've only just noticed that is what they were doing. I didn't know what it was until Wayne has now explained it. Now I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what they put in there. And also it's weird because they stole the guy's sheep and then ate it and like drained all of its blood. So
yeah. So like
so that was on there. Yeah. Thanks,
I mean,
guys.
like Joe has suggested, that there are a lot of cases where a lot of animal mutilations have taken place, but with those animal mutilations, there's also been strange noises, strange lights in the sky, weird things have been going on. And then the following morning, they've discovered that the cattle have been mutilated and they're dead, all drained of blood. And the surgical precision was second to none.
It just...
Yeah. You know, pieces of jaw had been removed, but the cuts were so fine that even the best surgeon in the world would not have been able to have made a cut that perfect. And they're like, no, this isn't right.
So do you think that this must be like, I don't know, sort of extraterrestrial rather than it being like a creature? Because I don't think a creature would make a really good, like, amazing incision.
No,
if you get what I mean.
There was an incident in Brazil, I think about 4 years later, where there was a group of children and the video was circulated. Greta's still laughing at chupacabra.
Chupacabra. It sounds like a type of barbecued meat, doesn't it? It's like
I'm just about to have a chupacabra. That's what it reminds me of. A chubba chub.
Chupacabra.
Chubba chub.
Chupacabra.
Chupacabra. But yeah, I mean, loads of people are saying, oh, it's aliens. And this incident in Brazil was a group of children having a party, and it was put all over the internet, and straight away everybody poo-pooed it. They went, no, that's rubbish. But there were so many different witnesses that saw it from a different point, not just the person that videoed it, that it became more and more credible. And they claimed that this thing that they saw was identical to the thing that was seen in Puerto Rico in 1995. So when you look at the video, that looks like your typical humanoid alien grey standing in a load of foliage, and it walks off. Then there's another one that materialized where it was more animal-like, and it jumped over a wall in front of a group of kids playing outside, and the kids all screamed, and it ran off. But all of the evidence that has been found relating to anything like a chupacabra, they're widely to believe, both in the scientific and the veterinary community, to be simply dogs with mange.
Oh. That's wow, that's good.
But the thing is, if a dog has got mange, what would it be doing draining the blood out of its victims?
Yeah, that's kind of like when they said in America that they found people that had turned into zombies. Like they said that and it just turned out that they were on really, really crazy drugs that had been like manufactured, and then they were like going around killing people and
Yeah,
drinking
the zombie
their blood,
drug.
you know? Yeah, the zombie drug. It was nothing to do with that. I don't know. It's just all a little bit strange, isn't it? Like, I don't know.
Well, we
Is that
know
the
for a
thing that
fact.
is like a cross bird human thing?
What we got?
So, Greta
Thing,
Smith.
right. You've got onto my specialist subject, Greta.
Hey.
Right. Specialist subject. Only this isn't a cryptid, as far as it's been documented at the moment. It is a urban legend at the moment. It's an urban legend, and that is the Mothman.
Oh yeah, I know of the Mothman.
Now, if anybody loves a good movie that is partially, which is factual but also quite scary at the same time, watch Richard Gere's The Mothman Prophecies. If you get a chance to watch it, do so, because what happened at Point Pleasant in West Virginia actually happened. And it scared the living pants out of a lot of people. And every year, Point Pleasant have a festival to celebrate the Mothman. Killed a load of people on the bridge. Well, it didn't directly kill a load of people on the bridge. It was a harbinger of doom. It was basically going to Point Pleasant for a number of months before the bridge collapsed, and it was warning people of something that was going to happen. And Richard Gere's part was actually sort of based on the guy that actually wrote the original story as a journalist. And what ensues, where he would have been traveling for something like 8 hours, only took 2, and he couldn't understand how. And the weird stuff. The weird stuff that was going on around the area, like sightings of lights and strange beings at the TNT area, and by the bridge itself. The Mothman was supposedly responsible, but he was also supposedly after the bridge collapsed, he was never seen there again. So why spend months warning people?
Like, I've done my duty. The bridge has collapsed. I kill people. I'm gonna go now.
I tried to warn them. They didn't listen. 64 people have snuffed it on the bridge. So sod your arm off.
Off I go.
So he buggers off and he goes off somewhere else. The problem is that stuff similar have been seen elsewhere. A church in Cornwall, 2 girls had seen something that resembled a man-sized owl type thing flying above a church.
Yeah. The owl man. The owl man was a bit of a freaky one.
Yeah. So was the owl man and the owl man and the Mothman related? It's just that we've called it something different to what the Americans called it. The belief is it was also seen before the Chernobyl nuclear reactor went critical and blew up. And at Fukushima in Japan, apparently it was been popularized and believed to be that the Mothman visited Fukushima before that went critical. Only a lot of people played that down and said no, because we had crows that were leaving the area at the time. So it's quite possible that you could have seen a crow, only it sort of counteracts itself when people turn around and go, but hang on a minute, this crow was 6 foot long.
I was going to say, like, in the shape of a man. Are you sure about that? It's either that or I'm on LSD or something. Like, no, I'm pretty certain.
Well, we
Did
did
you see it?
Sasquatch, Joe. Sasquatch and Bigfoot are the same thing. It's just different areas call it a different name. Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot, abominable snowman. They're all the same breed, but all the same species, but of a different ilk as such. That all depends on the habitat that it lives in.
Did you see the photos in China? I don't think all those videos are all fake, as they're all different people.
The only thing I've seen
go away. Sorry.
the only thing I've seen coming from China are all these people that believe there's a city floating in the sky.
Yeah, and that's all to do with like reflections, isn't it, and stuff like that.
It's basically called a superior mirage.
Mirage, yeah.
I posted something on Facebook a couple of weeks ago because I put something on my Facebook timeline about this guy in Cornwall had seen an oil tanker floating above the sea.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, yeah, that's the horizon.
It ended up in the paper, and I took one look at the photo and I went, "You're having a laugh, ain't you? It's not floating at all." Because behind the ship, you could actually see the true horizon.
Yeah, you can see the horizon there. Like
very faintly, but you can see the true horizon. But it's just the effect of the light, the same as a normal standard mirage, but it's on water, and it's created that image because the mirage effect is so low down that the ship appears to be floating. So of course everybody's going, "Oh, there's something wrong, there's a glitch in the matrix and all this," and you're like, it's got nothing to do with it, which is crazy.
So Greta, what could you tell me in the comments what you saw or what that was? Because it says here it was on a power line and just flew off of it and stood up on top of a building and a few cars crashed. So what actually was that? Like, was that a video or something that you'd seen? And what did it look like? Because
yeah, I will interject on something there. The reason why you don't see pigeons and seagulls on power lines because anything over a certain size goes when it touches it. So unless it's a bird of size with rubber boots on, there is no way anything of such a size is going to be standing on a power line. It's going to be very.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you like touch I mean, I've done that. I've actually touched a freaking like electric fence, and that is not a good idea. Like, don't do that.
Don't pee up against one.
Don't do that. And also don't touch it, because I was like, this is an electric fence. It was.
Or put your fingers in a plug socket. That's good.
Yeah, don't do any of those things.
It was something with wings and looked like a man. There is a chance it could have been actually standing on a telephone pole or a telephone wires rather than electric wires. But usually anything over the size of a pigeon will get zapped by electric cables. So weird. I don't know why a sparrow can stand on an electric cable and be all right, yet something like a seagull will get fried if it does. Yeah,
unless it's telephone lines. It could have been telephone lines.
Low, so that's more like telephone wires.
Although if it's 6 foot, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is you can have when you look at a bird's bone structure is different to ours.
Yeah, birds of prey is different. I mean, vultures are
any birds full stop. They have a different bone structure to us, which makes their bones lighter than ours, but they're also quite strong in terms of its size. So I think it's something to do with I think it's like honeycomb or something. Their bone structure, so that actually makes their bones lightweight but quite strong at the same time. So something that would be quite possibly 6 foot tall, if it has got the same sort of bone structure as a bird, it would be light enough to be able to stand on these cables. And you've got to remember, those cables have got to be fixed into place so that it can put up with any type of weather.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise you'll just see it all. There'd be no point in them putting them there.
Yeah.
Just off they go. It's huge. It was basically curled over at first, and then it just opens up and flies away.
Yeah.
A bit of a weird thing.
I mean, it could be. I mean, we never had cormorants in Essex, and it must have been about 25 years ago. We had two appeared on our local river, and they would sit on top of lampposts, and they were massive. They were actually looking at them. They looked like a heron.
Yeah,
but with a shorter neck. But cormorants aren't all that well known for being in places like Essex. The only place I know where they've got cormorants is Colchester Zoo. And I know because I put them in there. I looked after the cormorants when I worked at Colchester Zoo. We had this consignment of cormorants come in and I had to quarantine them. So, you know, it was weird to see these cormorants just sitting there on these lamps and just like, what the hell are they? And then obviously it dawned on me what they were. So, don't you think 2020 and 21 has been a game changer anyway, in all sense of the word? So many weird things have happened as well. Strange things happen right now. There is bound to be things come out in years to come just from this one year. No, I don't. I don't think this past year has done diddly squat, to be honest. It's how people have perceived what's been going on. Yes, we've had to stay indoors. We haven't been able to go out. We've been furloughed, you know, and we've been told to wear masks and stay in, stay safe. That's all we've had to do. Everything else that has happened in the world has happened the same way as it has year in, year out for the last God knows how many centuries.
It's just that people are noticing it more, people see it more, people understand it more because they've got more time on their hands, which personally I think that's why this has all happened, because I feel that nature wants us to know more.
I'll let you into a little secret. Tomorrow I'm digging up my grandmother from my back garden and I'm going to sit her out the front door and tell a bus to come and pick her up. And I'm going to post it on Facebook and I'm going to watch to see if anybody says it's true. Because this is exactly what people have been doing. They've posted stuff on Facebook and social media in general to try and scare people, to try and hook people along. You've got it with people sending fake messages and hacking people's Facebook accounts because they've got nothing better to do. If you've got something you can be doing that's constructive, that's why B&Q sales went up, because people were still allowed to decorate their homes, and because they were at home more, people were doing things that they wouldn't have normally have done. So that in a nutshell basically is the only thing that has changed people's lives, is the fact that we've had to spend more time at home than doing what we would normally have done. And it's how you cope with that time while you're at home. And me and Joe have talked about it a couple of times about certain things that have been going on and all this business with Prince Philip, rest his soul. You know, people were saying he died back in March because he came out of hospital and he had really yellow skin. Well, if you've had open heart surgery, your skin's going to go yellow. That's called jaundice.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of upset me. It literally took people only about 7.5 hours to start like coming up with all the rumors and I'm like, this is a human being and it's somebody. There's people out there grieving for this guy. Leave him the hell alone. Like, stop. Yeah, if you never liked him and you never liked him, like you don't have to make a big deal. Like.
No.
Ahhing and a big deal out of the fact that you don't like him now that he's gone, because, you know, obviously if he's gone, you don't have to worry about him anymore. So why are you going to make a big deal out of it now?
But
I just find it very disrespectful.
Towards Joe's point, yes, but we're on about animals. Now, before COVID and lockdown, there were a lot of cases of foxes walking into people's houses. There was 2 cases in London where a fox had gone into someone's house and tried to steal their baby. And that was before lockdown. That was before lockdown.
Oh, no, they tried to steal the baby?
urban foxes have been around for donkey's years.
Oh yeah.
We had a guy down the road from us that rescued foxes, and that's in Colchester. So we know there are, and they've been around for donkey's years. But there was a case about 7 or 8 years ago where a fox had wandered into somebody's house through their open patio doors, seen a baby in a travel cot, and tried to take it. And there's been quite a few cases, and that's got nothing to do with lockdown.
No, that's just freaking nature, isn't it? Like you've left the door open and the fox has seen an opportunity.
Like, yeah, exactly. The fox has seen an opportunity and has gone for it.
Yeah,
you know, at the end of the day,
but it's true.
We're taking away its supply of food by cutting down all the forests. So what they're going to do? They're going to come further inland to get their food. So I don't think really sort of regards to lockdown, nothing has changed, whether it's with us or whether it's with animals. It's how we've seen it, because we're about to see more instead of doing what we normally do.
Yeah, we don't have anything. We don't have anything that's getting in our way anymore. We don't have anything that is drawing our attention elsewhere. So we are going to be focused on all of the things that we've never seen before.
And once all this business is all done and dusted and over with, and everything goes back to normal, 2020 and 2021 are just going to be a thing of the past.
Exactly. We'll be like we'll all be sitting here in, like, say 20 years time, be like, oh god, do you remember that time when we had to stay indoors for nearly 2 years? Yeah, that was fun.
And in all honesty, since March last year, when all these lockdowns started, my life hasn't changed in only one aspect, and that is the fact that I don't go around driving coaches anymore.
Yeah,
I've abided by the rules. I've stayed indoors. If I've had to go to the shops, I've gone to the shop with my mask, and I've respected the rules and regulations. My life hasn't changed any iota, apart from the fact I'm not going out with my coaches. I could quite easily approach a coach company and say, do you want some work? But I don't need to, because I've got what I've got here. I've evolved. I've evolved from last year's situation, and I've literally made myself compatible with the new situation, and this new situation will continue once lockdown's finished.
Exactly.
So my life has changed for the better, and I've moved on with it. So and it's the same, you know, if you're sitting at home and you've got more time available, because obviously you're being furloughed or you can't go to work, you're going to sit there, you're going to go on Facebook or go on TV, and you are going to take more notice of the things that go on around you on social media and the news than you would have previously done. You know, seeing a subject on the news that only lasts about 2 minutes, you probably pay more attention to while you're in lockdown than you would have done in your everyday life. You just see it as a fleeting glimpse and then just carry on. So I don't think there's been much of a change technically. It's how people have perceived it.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. So we literally got going the last couple of minutes here. Sam mentioned it herself, and it was posted on Facebook about fairies.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to answer Sam's question. Technically, fairies are not part of cryptozoology, or generally are not part of cryptozoology. The answer being is that fairies are more of a preoccupation of 19th century fringe science, rather than a subject suitable for inclusion in the science of cryptozoology. However, doesn't mean that all cryptozoologists scoff at the idea of fairies. So basically, you're looking at the fact that from the 19th century onwards, there was photos of the fairies in the garden dancing about. Oh,
sorry,
you did that on purpose. Yeah, you did. So you've got the fairies in the garden dances on roses, and it's because, again, fairly recent-ish item of legend. But the fairies do date back to things like Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're going into dragons and elves and goblins and that.
Yeah.
So they are legends, and it's very similar to the legend of Dokalfar, I think is how they pronounce it, and that they're called dark elves. And then you've got Giselfar, which are light elves.
Light elves, yeah.
Which are two contrasting types of fairies. The prior dwell within the earth and are most swarthy, while the latter live in the Alfheimer, and are fairer even, than the sun to look at. Belief in fairies was once widespread, and famous men such as Walt Disney and Battle of Britain hero Lord Dowding were members of the Fairy Investigation Society, founded in 1927.
Okay.
So basically, the majority of scientists and the scientific followings don't believe that fairies need to be in cryptozoology. They are just part of myths and folklore.
Okay.
So, but yeah, in some sides of things, there's no reason as such. Again, it's probably because there is no real hard evidence of there being fairies.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because obviously it's like children believing in Father Christmas and the Easter Bunny, as we talked about earlier.
The sort of legends, isn't it? Because the last one that I remembered, and I only remembered it like halfway through when we were talking, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, I forgot about that, was the legend of the Rake. And that's one that's always interested me. I don't know why, because it's the most disgusting looking creature ever. And I certainly would not want to fricking see that on a dark alley or in a tunnel. No, thank you. You can go away, Rake. But it's one that's interested me because of how far it dates back and the fact that there was quite a few records of it, even back in like the early 1800s, whereby there was one guy that said, I had a nightmare and the Rake came to me in my dream, and we have now left. Me and my family have now left our home, and we are now traveling to somewhere. I can't remember where they were going now, of request of the Rake. So in this nightmare, this thing has like requested this guy to leave, and he was so terrified that he actually did it. And I was like, that's quite funny. But I was like, whoops. But he said that he had seen this creature quite a few times, and I read up on it before I came on the live. Actually, yesterday I had a little read through, ready for tonight, and they had said in the record as well that he had, they basically said that he was a bit of a twit because they thought he was mental. But I don't know whether I believe that he was mental or not, because even to this day, there have been sightings of this weird, it's one of those things whereby you find it in places like tunnels and, sort of like dungeons, like underground sort of dungeons and stuff like that. And it's just this thing that kind of is on all fours, but is also kind of long and thin, with like the head of a human, but the rest of it is just like this tiny, weird little like stick insect sort of. It looks like a giant stick insect with a human head. It's disgusting, and nobody ever wants to see that coming at them. But yeah, there's been video on, there's been videos of it that, they say is apparently the Rake. We don't know whether that's true or not, but some of them, I personally feel is more probable than others. And then there's, of course, the evidence with photographic evidence of it as well. But yeah, the ones that seemed to interest me the most about the Rake was actually the ones that were in the 1800s, because there was just so many reportings of it written down. They can't all, and this is from all over the world, and they cannot all see the same thing.
Right. So, well, what we're going to do...
That's a bit weird.
What we're going to do is because that deserves to be on a sort of separate show, and we have run out of time for tonight.
We have, guys. I'm sorry to say.
What we'll do is we will do something else regards to fairies, and we will have it as a category of myths, legends, and fairies.
Yeah, myths and legends.
That's more appropriate for fairies and elves, goblins, etc. So what we're going to do is we are going to leave you tonight, as we slightly overrun. And
10 minutes over now.
We will sort out a day where we will do a chat about fairies, goblins, elves, etc.
Myths and legends, why not? We'll go there.
Before we go, there is just one fairy we haven't mentioned, and I'm going to mention it, okay, because this is quite serious, very serious, in fact. Do not sleep with your head under the pillow if you believe in the tooth fairy. And I'll leave that with you to think about.
Yeah, it's weird because I've just been watching a TV show tonight whereby the tooth fairy has actually featured in an episode. So yeah, and that was a little bit weird. So
anyway, yes, Sam, we're overrunning.
Yeah, we'll leave you with that. And yeah, don't suffocate yourself tonight. There you go. See you soon, guys.
We'll see you during the week.
Yep, we'll see you soon, everybody.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.